Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of E-Commerce Simplified powered by Spectrum BPO. I'm your host Umar, and today we have got an exciting guest joining us, someone who built one of the fastest and most accurate repricing tool in the e-commerce space. We are talking about none other than Jordan, the founder of Flash Pricer, and a platform trusted by Amazon and Walmart seller to stay competitive in real time without sacrificing profit margins. So whether you are a reseller, private label brand, or an agency managing multiple accounts, this episode is going to give you deep insight into how intelligent repricing actually works, what mistakes sellers should avoid, and how technology like Flash Repricer is shaping the future of online selling. Jordan, it's real pleasure having you here. Welcome to the show.
Really excited to be here. You gave a pretty in-depth overview. I hope I can live up to the expectations here. So, yep, I'm excited to start figuring out how we can answer some of your questions here.
Great, great. Jordan, it's real pleasure having you here. So, Jordan, let's start from the beginning. Flash Pricer has become a goal to name in the repricing world. But I'm curious, what was the aha moment that made you realize there was a gap in the space?
Yeah, so actually, I had the pleasure of working in the SaaS e-commerce space for many years now. So it wasn't like a specific aha moment where I knew that there was a need for this sort of tool. I had started off my career in the e-commerce SaaS space, let's call it 15 years ago, when I was the first employee at another e-commerce SaaS tool in the space, and I helped grow that tool tremendously over the course of 7.5 or 8 years. Basically, the whole time I was working there, obviously, I saw the demand for the product, and we were building really cool repricing tools for resellers. But at the same time, I was sort of had finger on the pulse of where the sellers are sort of going and what sort of business models they're sort of spiraling into, flipping into, and the evolution has sort of been online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, wholesale, drop shipping. Those all sort of happened at the same time. There was a bit of private label brands and just brand selling their own branded product over time, and sort of just watch the evolution go from some of those other business models and really sort of shift, right? Even in the past 6 to 8 years, shift more heavily towards brands who are selling on these marketplaces and channels, right? And having really great success with that. And so once my non-compete was up with my old company, I knew I was going to get back into the e-commerce repricing space, but I also wanted to take a bit of a spin on it. So I did two things in our go-to-market strategy. The first was I knew I wanted to be the best at Walmart repricing, because I was actually the one who had built the initial APIs with the Walmart team directly for their repricing API functionality, and I knew that Walmart was an interesting opportunity, a diversification, and a high growth marketplace for sellers, but we were at the very beginning of that. So when I launched Flash Pricer, I launched it with Walmart first repricing on the reseller's end, and that was my go-to-market strategy. We also had Amazon repricing for resellers straight away from the beginning as well, but that space was a bit more saturated, and that was the space that I had come from originally, right? And so I knew what my competition looked like. I knew people had some of these other softwares had 8 to 10 years of sort of a head start on me. But I knew nobody was really doing Walmart the right way. And I figured if I could prove my value on the Walmart side, then it's easy for me to sort of add in the Amazon marketplace as well. Because, the Amazon marketplaces were, repricers were getting a bit commoditized, right? Everybody's sort of doing the same thing, and we were competing on price, but nobody can really do the Walmart thing the right way. So that was one strategy there, and sort of like why I focused on, and saw the opportunity for the repricer on that side. The other thing that we've come to conclude was, again, I'd been watching the market for so long, and I knew that like pricing was not just a reseller based thing, not just resellers who are buying in bulk and had tons of competition on their listing need to be looking at their pricing, but also brands who effectively, like the evolution of a brand and how they pick products and launch and go to market on them is just, we sort of see the following actions happening. They use tools like Smart Scout, Jungle Scout, Helium 10 to figure out what the opportunity sort of is, right? Like product research and development. Then they develop the product. Either they manufacture it with the already existing manufacturers that they have in place, or they private label it, an already existing product under their own brand because the opportunity is strong enough. Then they're ready to list the product. They create a beautiful listing, title tags. They do some SEO around the copy, and etc. And they look at the competitors off listing, who have the majority of the market share. They look at their pricing. They try to figure out somewhere in between, below or above, etc., but like directly above, that they can, sort of sell this product at. They set the price, and then they run ads to it and run social campaigns and all the rest, right? And so while the smartest of brands are optimizing product titles, images, copy, ads on a continuous basis, one of the pieces that gets overlooked quite frequently is price. So like brands will go years, months, if not years, without ever testing price changes. And testing price changes on your branded products is quite difficult to have a stabilized test, which is like takes X amount of time per day, and like really track it, 24-hour blocks. What happened during each of these times, run it back through algos, right? Like you might need like data scientists and all the rest. And in the absence of like a software that's able to do this for you, it's at minimum very time consuming, and at maximum, you don't even really know which prices to test. And so we've developed a private label algo that uses AI to look at competition's pricing, look at your historical sales, run that all through our learning model, guess product prices that will work the best, and guess the sales velocity you'll get at those specific prices, and obviously optimize for either sales or profitability. And so that's the power that we've given to our sellers on the private label side, on the branded side, that no other repricers in the space are offering right now. And so that's where I really saw the opportunity, right? So we're supporting the resellers in buy box optimization and like buy box placement, holding buy box, and optimizing for sales and profitability there. But we've now sort of taken like a split path where we're supporting the entire market and also these branded products in order to really optimize price and pull that lever as one of the levers that typically doesn't get adjusted over time. And we've been very successful in helping our brands unlock tons of additional profit by testing different prices against their competition.
That's inspiring backstory, and it's always fascinating to hear when innovations start from solving a real seller pain point. It's really awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's cool. It's like it's very. This is like kind of like a new concept
Yeah.
with regards to the pricing world, right? Like mostly, we're trained by the marketplaces and by Google, and I mean as like as an agency style business, right? Like what these brands are looking at, and like I'm not sure how often price comes up as into the discussion. Of course, we're
Mm,
looking at our product listing images, our titles, our body copy as compared to the competition, what they look like, what the product actually, is,
mm,
how good of how well it's manufactured, what problem that solves. But this is like a newer concept. Like only the smartest of brands had been testing pricing beforehand, and now they're able to test it with software and
mm,
on a continuous basis and like really analyze the data and like everything at their fingertips. So like
mm,
this is like a newer sort of concept. I've been watching it evolve, and I've seen that the smartest sellers are doing it, but now like even you know now it's becoming part of the conversation that like more and more brands need to actually look at this. Like we've been trained, spend money on ads, spend money on ads, spend money on ads, tweak the bids, tweak
mm.
the this, tweak the that. But
Yeah.
like, how effective is it if you can, keep your spend the same, because that's what the customers are accustomed to spending, right? The clients are accustomed to spending. I'm spending X amount on ads, right? If we could keep ACOS on steady and declining, and we could also increase profit margin, like the spread between the two becomes massive at some point or another.
Great. Yeah. You're definitely right. Okay. So now you work with thousands of sellers daily, right? So you must have seen patterns repeat over and over. So what would you say are the top three pricing seller mistakes they make today on Amazon or Walmart?
Hmm. So I'll do this in a couple of ways, right? So like when we're talking about resellers and competition-based sellers, so the top three mistakes are not implementing a repricer, like even when they reach 5 listings, right? So
Mm,
nobody can move as fast as the robots. Our
yeah.
systems and softwares are monitoring at all times throughout the day, 24/7. So like some people, some clients we run into, they're like, yeah, we're just doing it manually. Like we don't need a repricer. I'm like, okay, fine. So like if you do it manually and prices change multiple times a day and you miss one of those price changes and you don't get there anyway, it takes 5 to 15 minutes to reach the marketplace on the Amazon side. And on the Walmart side, it's very, very quick. Like we get there in a couple seconds. But like if you don't, if you or somebody from your team, even if you have VAs working around the clock, right, are not monitoring this in near real time, like if you miss out on a price change that happened 45 minutes ago, as an example,
Mm,
and then you make the price change either within Seller Center or basically within Seller Center, since you're doing it manually. So your price change takes effect an hour later. You maybe get the buy box or get positioning around the buy box for 15 minutes, and
mm,
then the other person's repricer makes the change, and then you're out of the buy box for the next 45 minutes to an hour or an hour and a half until you check it again, or somebody else checks it again. And so that's a losing sort of formula when you're 75% of the time you're not in the right positioning, right? And so like across 5 listings, that's already a difficult job to keep track of, but across 50 listings plus, like it makes it impossible. And so the mistake is that thinking that humans can do it as fast as the machines can. The machines can just do exactly what you want them to do with customized rules and stuff like that. But you're basically not doing yourself a service by actually doing it manually, and you're not saving time, and you're definitely not making as many sales as you're optimally able to. So that's issue number one. Issue
mm,
number two is using the marketplace's internal repricers because they're free.
mm,
Um, So each of the marketplaces that we support, Amazon and Walmart, both offer a free option. Those options are not very good from the Amazon perspective. You might run into Amazon as your competitor. You still have to set up minimum and maximum selling thresholds. If Amazon comes on your listing, they know your minimum selling threshold, so they can easily just go to a price that's directly below that and know that they'll own you effectively. Also, their repricer is not very good at making upwards movements. So mostly it's downwards movements. Walmart side, not only does it mostly make downward movements, it's free, that's true, but the buy box data and the competition data that it's using in order to make these price changes, again, they're very simple price changes. So if you wanted anything a little more advanced, then just match the buy box or beat them by 1 penny or etc., then you're going to need to use an external tool. But on the Walmart side specifically, their data is so wildly incorrect. Meaning if you look in Seller Center and check who the buy box owner is, there's a column on the products page, and it'll say buy box owner and their price. If you click through on those prices to get to the listing, you'll notice that about 60% of that data is incorrect for who the buy box owner is. It's just severely delayed. And while it might have been correct at one point, we've noticed that in aggregate, when we run a report versus the data that we're aggregating ourselves as compared to what we're getting from the APIs from Walmart, about 60% of the information is delayed or incorrect. Also, they don't get notifications every time a competitor changes. They're not displaying that. And so that was the issue with the technology that I saw, and why I knew that I can do it a lot better is because we overlay it. We take that data from Walmart when they send it, and then we make sure that it's validated and correct. And so if you're using the internal Walmart repricer, you're just repricing based off of incorrect data, which is what any other Walmart repricer in the space is doing, is just taking the API data for truth. And you're going to be A, missing out on sales because you're repricing against the wrong person, B, maybe pricing too low, or C, not pricing high, increasing your pricing because the data is incorrect. And so what we do is we make sure that that data is correct.
Great.
And yeah, so like we're using a bunch of technologies to actually proactively get that information instead of relying on the Walmart data. And so that's why a lot of our sellers are seeing increased growth on that channel. I guess the third issue that we're seeing that sellers are missing is exactly what we had just spoken about in the last conversation, and basically that's these brands are so heavily focused on ad spend and tweaking creative and copy and titles, and optimizing those. And while those are very, very important, the one piece that they're not touching in general or haven't been touching is price. And so why not multivariate test it? You're testing everything else, right? Price is such a huge determinant of who buys the product, right? And not always is it lowest price is the best selling price, and or the most profitable. But if you don't test that, you won't know.
Great. Those are the spot on. And I'm sure a lot of listeners are probably guilty of at least one of those mistakes. Right. Okay, so move to the next question. Private label sellers often believe repricing is not for them, right? So it is only for resellers or arbitrage sellers. But I know Flash Pricer works across both. So how is repricing different for private label brands versus resellers listing commodity products?
Yeah, so resellers will have multiple sellers on their,
Mm,
on the product listing page, right? And they're
yeah,
typically competing for a percentage of buy box ownership, right?
yeah.
And so we need competitive type rules that say when you're selling the product with this fulfillment method, reprice differently against XYZ competitor. And we have custom strategies that basically you can narrow it down to even the individual seller who you're competing with by name. So like gets very, very custom in terms of like how you want to reprice. Also, maybe if like your inventory has aged a certain amount of time, maybe you want to push through and get more aggressive at the buy box, or maybe you've set your minimum thresholds at a certain
Mm,
dollar amount, and the product isn't moving because different competition entered the space. So you'd set up different rules for those types of listings. So that's how resellers would use the tool. They would use very customized strategies or very simple strategies to basically compete with other competitors on the individual listing. Resellers would put their products into private label sellers or brands would put their listings into a private label AI strategy. And that strategy works as follows. So you can target either sales velocity first and then profitability focused,
mm,
or you can go straight profitability focused, or you could go straight um, sales velocity focused, right? So like
mm,
some private label brands, when they're first launching a product, might use a strategy that focuses on sales velocity. So I want to achieve at least 25 sales per day on average for the last 7 days for this product, and optimize my price so that I can reach that average sales velocity on this product, grouping of products, or the whole catalog. Uh, then there might be a more mature product, like let's call it semi-mature. So past the initial phase where you've got some reviews, you've got some traction, your BSR is on the decline, meaning you're selling a few pieces a day to 25 pieces a day or something like that, medium threshold sort of thing, where you might want to set a hybrid strategy within FlashPricer. And the hybrid strategy is I want to on average sell 10 units a day. Once I meet that 10 units a day on average for the last 7 days, flip to a profit focused dollar amounts in strategy, which means I want the most dollars in. So find me the price that brings me the most dollars home. Okay, and so
mm.
that's like a bit of a hybrid strategy. And if I go to the price where I'm bringing the most dollars home and I fall below the 10 units per day threshold, then optimize again for velocity, right? So if it might flip flop back and forth, and we use AI and machine learning and models to model out which prices those are each going to be based off of that strategy. And then the third strategy that a private label seller might use, again, this can all be customized within the same strategy in FlashPricer, but the third might be from the most mature sort of products that you have, the ones that are selling the best. And now you've already achieved like a great sales velocity. Now you really want to focus on profit dollars in. So find me the best price that this product is going to be the most profitable at. And that might be sell for $1 or $2 lower than I'm selling right now and sell more units, but that equates to more profit, or sell for higher and make less sales, but equates to more profit, or sell for higher and you actually make more sales, surprisingly, and that of
Mhm.
course equates to more profit.
Excellent point. But that difference in strategy really clarifies why every seller needs uh, types of approach, pricing differently, right? That's good. So my next question is, Flash Pricer claims to deliver 40% more accurate real-time data than others, and that really caught my attention. So what does more accurate mean in practical terms, and how does that advantage translate for sellers?
Yeah, so more accurate. We were talking about on the Walmart side how not only is 60% of the data incorrect and inconsistent with what we've aggregated over here, but also the notifications don't come. So we're supposed to receive a notification when anybody comes on or off the listing. We're also supposed to receive a notification when buy box owner is changed. And so if the data is incorrect 60% of the time, and we're missing about 40% of the notifications, so then it's a real big mess, right? So what we do is every time we receive a notification from Walmart, we ingest that information, but we don't take it for truth. We basically go out and say, okay, cool. Well, is this the correct data, or is this the incorrect data? And then we make sure that it is correct. So that's the times when we get the notifications. That's how we make sure that the data is correct. We go out and fetch it ourselves from directly from Walmart.com, not through the APIs. So API data comes in. We're like, cool, great. Thanks for sending us that information. We'll let you know if we think it's good. If we do, then we push it through to our system, and then our system makes a price change if your strategies and minimum maximum thresholds allow for it. If not, then we go out and find the actual data. We're like, nope, that was not correct. And then we redo our calculations and increase price, decrease price, or match price, depending on your strategy settings. So that's step one. So that's when we get a notification from Walmart or Amazon, right? Step two is what happens when we don't get those notifications. So when we don't get those notifications, we don't know that we're supposed to check to make sure that the data is correct or incorrect, right? Because nothing has changed on the listing. From Walmart's perspective, we're supposed to get a call. So what we do is we actually do something very, very interesting, and something that nobody else in the space is doing. We give competition scores to each and every one of the listings within FlashPricer. And basically what that means is we look at all the competitors on the listing, which again, nobody else in the space gets all the competitors on the listing. They're just getting buy box owner. So we get all competitors on the listing. So then we say, okay, cool. When's the last time that any of the competitors on the listing changed their price? And at what frequency? And we're tracking the intervals for how frequently any competitors on the listing are changing pricing. And based on how frequently they're changing pricing, we're giving that listing a competition score. And the higher the competition score, the more proactive we are about going out and fetching the actual buy box owner's information and the other competitors' information regularly. And so on our most competitive listings, even if we don't receive notifications from Walmart, which again, we said a lot of those are missing, we go out and fetch the data proactively. And so the most competitive ones, highest competition scores, we fetch every 5 to 10 minutes. Least competitive, every 12 hours. And everything in between that, medium, low, medium rare, let's call it, or etc. Will be somewhere in between the 5 to 10 minutes and the 12-hour intervals.
Right.
And that's if we don't receive notifications. If we receive a notification, we go out and get the information. Anyway, that breaks our whole competition cycle. But we're still recording how competitive the competitors are on the marketplace, and we'll restart that interval from that last notification.
Great. That's solid explanation. And it's clear that data precision directly impacts how competitive and profitable seller can stay.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So my next question is, pricing is such a tricky mix of art and science, right? So, and automation can only go so far without strategy. How do you balance AI automation with human decision making when it comes to pricing?
Yep. So, yeah, awesome. Great question. We spoke about the strategy before for brands, and how they can basically augment what our AI is deciding in terms of like which type price change it's gonna test, right? And so if you're sales velocity focused, right? So here's where the human element comes into play. You know, if you're just launching a product, if your product is mid-cycle, or if it's a mature product. And so those are the levers within each strategy that are the sellers that are using FlashPricer can pull. whether it's a hybrid, I have greater than X amount of stock in WFS or FBA. And as a result of having so much stock in place, I want to have more of a sales velocity based approach. So then we're going to be we're letting the AI choose numbers based on what we think is going to sell the most, right? Or get you to that minimum average selling threshold per day. The other threshold you can set is minimum sales per day. So again, the human element comes into play where you're telling us, okay, cool, if I have greater than X amount of inventory in stock and or I haven't yet achieved 10 sales on average per day for all the products that are associated with the strategy, then stay hyper-focused on selecting prices. AI, focus on selecting prices that are going to be selling the most amount of product. I don't really care about profit for now, as long as I'm above my minimum threshold and below my maximum threshold. So that's a hybrid of human element and AI-based decisions. The next decision that our clients get to make is, okay, cool, we're out of the sales velocity phase, and I want to balance sales velocity with the profitability. And so we've reached 10 sales per day on average. Now flip to profit focused and stay above 10 sales per day on average, but get me more money in. Right, so that's the second strategy setting that the humans can choose, and AI can implement on. Right, so the first grouping of numbers that it's going to be testing is which numbers do I need to test in order to stay above the 10 sales per day, and then it's going to test another set of numbers that are going to bring you in the most profit without losing that sales velocity. The last element that the client is able to augment is sometimes our inventory planning and stuff like that is not so good, and we miss, and we have delays in product coming in from other countries, etc. If we have less than, so you could set in the strategy, if we have less than X amount of inventory in stock in the warehouse, then we can shift to a sales velocity slowdown strategy instead of profit focused or sales velocity increase, sales velocity decrease. So effectively slow it down, whatever that means. Go move the price down, move the price up, or sideways. Slow my sales so that I don't stock out effectively. We get an idea of like when you're going to stock out, so we know what that looks like. And so if any of our clients set that as part of their strategy, once we reach that minimum threshold, be it 100 products less in stock, 200 products left, you can set that manually. We will slow sales at that point, and then you'll be able to restock, hopefully, because stocking out of a branded product is not a really good look. You lose BSR, foothold, you lose search visibility and stuff like that, as you know, I'm sure. You'd rather not go out of stock on your best selling products, or at least on products that are gaining momentum.
Yeah, Jordan, I love that balance, using automation as leverage while keeping human insight in control. That's powerful. I think you have covered my next question, so I'll skip this and moving to the next. Buy box ownership is still one of the most misunderstood topics in the seller community, even in 2025. So what do you think sellers still get wrong about the buy box and their pricing strategies?
Maybe that buy box ownership is not sort of countrywide, right? People might not understand that, and so a few things. I have two ideas on this topic. So it's possible to own a percentage of the buy box and still make sales, for sure. The more aggressive you get, the more buy boxes you'll presumably own, but it also, buy boxes are also very heavily weighted on how fast the product is going to arrive at the client's door. So it is a mixture sort of handling and shipping days and price on branded products, right? And so while you may be owning the buy box in the Northeast because you're shipping out of a New York location, and you have 2-day shipping, and your price is $99.99. That same $99.99 might not be owning you the buy box on the West Coast, because your ship times to West Coast might be 4 or 5 days. And so a competitor at $103 or $104 might be owning the buy box out in California for somebody who's shopping from there, because of the quick ship times. So it's a bit of a balance, right? You don't have to own the whole buy box in order to make sales. You just have to own the buy boxes in the right areas and a certain percentage of the buy box, right? And so while if you have coverage through 2-day shipping anywhere countrywide, then like if you own the buy box outright, like 85, 95, or 100% of the time, you're going to basically be taking every sale for that product that product has and is humanly possible. So there's a common misconception there that's like, oh, I always want to like beat the buy box or whatever, but that means different things in different places. And so I would say, like, with inventory forecasting and buying for like 30 days or 45 days, whatever your window is that you buy for, you should also take into consideration like where you're going to be placing those items, like which FBA facilities, or if you're going to just let Amazon transfer it around to make it the most optimal and stuff like that. But factor in some sort of deviation where you won't be owning 100% of the buy box. So like if the estimated sales on the listing are, 100 sales a day, and you figure you're going to own like 50 or 30% of that buy box, and that's okay with you, then you could factor for about 30 sales per day on that product. So that's number one misconception about buy boxes and how they sort of work. And specifically on the Amazon side, like sometimes there's two, they'll even give return in their APIs to buy box owners simultaneously. And so oftentimes that's for different regions. And sometimes it's even in the same region, they'll like just share it around, right? Based on like your price and the other competitor's price and different computers and screens. Second misconception is that if you're not in the buy box, you're not going to make sales. That's just not true, right? Again, comes into play here a lot is how fast you're delivering, right? What fulfillment method, etc. Right? So like sometimes FBM sellers will be in the buy box or obtain buy box at a price that's $5, $10, $15 below an FBA seller, but there's a lot of, basically every household, I don't know what the stat is, but I thought it was like every household in America basically has a Prime membership. I don't know if that's actually true. Do you know anything on that subject?
I don't know much.
Okay, whatever. There's a lot. A lot of people have Prime memberships,
Maybe.
and a lot of people are not interested in waiting 12 days to get their product. And depending on what the product is, right? Even if the buy box is allocated to an FBM seller for $12 or $15 less, if the buyer is a business buyer and it's maybe somebody else's credit card, or they're a private buyer and they're buying on Prime and they just need the product in the next day or two, they're going to buy from the seller who is the FBA seller who's $12 or $15 above. And again, it might not be at the same rate as if you were holding the buy box, because I think this statistic is like 75 or 80% of sales do actually come out of the buy box. But again, we're talking about regional buy boxes and stuff like that. So like $10-15, you might, and if you're delivering it one day from certain facilities to the buyer, then you might actually be obtaining buy boxes at those higher prices. So if you're targeting buy box in your strategy, we have a piece of functionality called the yo-yo functionality, which is pretty sweet. So like on high velocity, like high selling resale items, you basically can vie for the buy box, that's great. And you set your strategy to beat or match or stay above FBM or FBA, other FBA sellers who are currently in the buy box. And so you'll be getting like a buy box percentage share just straight away. And you'll be getting X amount of sales at that price. Then you can set on a like on a bar effectively, like what, every X amount of minutes, so like 30, 60, 90 minutes, increase my price by X percentage or dollar amount, and then stay there for 15, 30, 45 minutes, and then drop back down to compete with the rest of the competitors the same way that we sort of were in the past. And I've seen this working like really, really, really well on items that sell well and that you don't need to get every single sale for, because you can obtain $4, $5, $8, $10 I've seen in the past more than you were making before that, because you're in the buy box, and then you might maintain buy box in certain areas because of your delivery times on another coast. You'll lose buy box here, but you'll gain it. You'll maintain it there, and you're just capturing not only velocity at that point, because you owned the buy box at a lower price and you were happy with selling it at that price, but now you're making $4, $5, $6, $7 extra sale. And I haven't in situations where you're doing like a 90-minute interval and like a 30-minute hold or something like that, I haven't seen it slow sales too much. So I'll look at like an order report for the individual SKU. So like this is on faster moving products, but like I'll see order $99, $99, $99, $106, $99, $106, $99, $106, $99, $99, $99, $98, $106, $99. And that'll happen, there'll be like 15, 20 sales a day, just like that, right? And so maybe it's like slowed just a little bit in those like 106.99 numbers. So maybe instead of like one sale every 30 minutes, it's every 40 minutes, but you're capturing an extra $6 and that $7 in price, right? Profit, that is, right? So yeah, those are sort of like the misconceptions there, and like some of the things that you should be testing around buy box ownership and placement.
That's enlightening. I think a lot of sellers will look at the buy box with a new whole perspective after that. So, yeah. Okay. Let's dive deep, and large catalog seller face a different beast altogether. What unique challenges do they encounter that smaller seller might never see, and how does Flash Prices step in to solve them?
When you talk about large catalogs, how large are we speaking?
I think 1,000 ASINs, SKUs.
Yep. Yeah. So 1,000 ASINs is basically the same for us as one ASIN, and or on the Walmart side, like doesn't really matter too much. Meaning that's not going to put any strain on our systems at all. It's when you start getting to the catalogs that look like to like 100,000 plus SKUs per channel, specifically on the Amazon side, that we start getting a lot of data in, because Amazon just pushes like a lot of data our way, even if they're not managing the products anymore. They're they still give you everything you need or don't need. So from like a software perspective, those are the accounts that need specialized sort of attention. On the Walmart side, it gets more and more, both sides, it gets more and more difficult for sellers, at least, right? We were talking about sellers who have very small catalogs and how, common misconceptions: don't need a repricer, I only have 5 listings or whatever, and I'm doing it manually. So like that's something that like smaller catalogs, like the mindset might not be there yet for I need a repricer. Bigger catalogs, it's like sort of a no-brainer. I mean, of course you can't do it. I don't think you could do it on 5 listings or above. Even below 5 listings, if I was starting to be a seller today, one of the first tools that I implement is a repricer. but definitely on larger catalogs, it's 100% necessary. Just from like the perspective of navigating around Seller Center or Seller Seller Central on Amazon, it's impossible to like filter for products, see which products are in buy box placement, out of buy box placement, where your competition lives, when I'm going to stock out on an item, how much stock I have in place, how many I have inbound, and stuff. Like there's just a wealth of knowledge that you can get out of an advanced repricer that is just like very difficult to sort of obtain within these seller centrals. And of course, like if you want to see it all in one place, if you're managing multiple Amazon stores or multiple Walmart stores or Amazon and Walmart stores, you could just sort of search your SKU and or the name of the product and just get all the information about it, how much it sold on each marketplace over the course of the past 30 days, 90 days, etc. What your different price points were, how much inventory you have in stock at each place. It's just stuff that you would have to go to multiple different places within Seller Center in order to aggregate the data. And like it just makes it a whole lot easier. A, from like a repricing perspective, but B, from a just like a high level view of your business and like what you have to do to like make things better, right? And even subtle tweaks to your repricing strategy will boost sales or increase sales. So difference between small catalogs and big catalogs, not so much, except for I think the bigger your catalogs are, the more difficult it is to sort of like look at things in aggregate and like analyze and stuff like that. And a good repricer will help you not only reprice those items in real time, which is like physically impossible from a human perspective, definitely not to be able to do it most efficiently, to free up your time for sourcing more products, which is actually like a good use of your time as compared to like actually changing prices, which can be done by a machine. But yeah, like in terms of like listing count and stuff like that, doesn't really matter too much from a software perspective until you get to like these big numbers. And like we've had sellers on our software that have a million SKUs in an account, and so that gets pretty cumbersome. But they were still using us to make like micro refinements to their pricing and stuff like that. And you won't be surprised that like changing some very small variables on that scale like equals a lot more dollars in.
Absolutely. Scalability seems to be a silent killer for big accounts. I love how Flash Pricer addressed that. Right. So, okay. Many agencies, including Spectrum BPO, manage multiple brands. And how does Flash Pricer support agency in handling several accounts while maintaining control and performance?
Yeah. So we have many management companies under our belts, and some agencies. Basically, there's a few different ways to handle them. One is like a regular sort of agency view where you could just add all of the brands that you're managing to one Flash Pricer account. And then you could see an overview of all of them in aggregate, or you can filter for specific channels to see what is going on where, and filter down and create specific strategies for individual channels or groupings of listings, etc. So that's one way. The challenge with that way of using Flash Pricer is that if you wanted to share data or access to the tool with an individual client so they could poke around on their own, that would be a little bit more difficult because they would be able to see other clients' data in aggregate in that one view. We've also solved for that because you can create individual Flash Pricer accounts for each brand and invite them to be users on those accounts, so they can log in and see the information only about those brands. But the agency will have their own view as the master user. So the agency sets up each of those individual brand accounts, and then invites the brand owners to partake and view their individual channels. but the agency's email address has a drop down that basically allows the agency to toggle easily in between each of the brands. So the brand itself has its own sort of portal, but the agency view is able to toggle for each individual brand and work on them individually, also within one sign-in.
Perfect. That multi-brand visibility and control is a huge advantage for agencies handling diverse portfolios, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're seeing agencies and management companies using it in sort of different ways. Management companies, like meaning people who manage many Amazon accounts or Amazon and Walmart accounts on behalf of their clients. They're procuring the items, they're selling it, right? Basically a completely hands-off sort of thing. They typically opt for a one user view with all of the channels attached to it so they could see everything in aggregate and then filter down for the specific brand. The agencies typically want to give access to the brands on some level or another, and so they're typically going for the agency view. Makes sense, where each brand is split up into its own thing, but they have access to each of them via toggle and drop down to see the different dashboards populate.
Great. Okay, let's talk about innovation. So what new feature or update at FlashPricer are you personally most excited about right now, and why?
Okay, a few things. I've got a few things right now. So we just released basically AI reporting functionality where you could select any range of date range at the individual product level, at the strategy level, or at the entire marketplace level, and say, this is the range that I'd like to look at, compare it to the range before that, and give me all the information you have about it. So what happened here basically? So like, is profit increasing? Is sales increasing? Is sales velocity increasing? What are profit margins looking like, etc.? And gives you like a beautiful sort of like report that tells you everything you need to know about the product, about the strategy, or at the marketplace level. And so what I'm super excited about is mostly on that one is like twofold. One, at the product level, so brands and agencies and can look at what we've been doing on the private label repricing side and say, oh cool, well, like this has been running for 60 days now, so in the last 30 days are we getting better at what we're doing and deciding pricing than before when we started repricing, right? So like it really gives clarity to the brand and the agency who's running it for them, to be able to go back to the brand and be like, hey, look what we've been able to do by implementing this repricing strategy, right? So that's really cool for the brands at the individual product level. For resellers at the strategy level, so let's say you want to try something new on a strategy, how are you going to know if like a strategy might be associated with 2,000 listings or 100 listings or whatever it is, right? Let's say you wanted to try something a little bit different. Your current strategy says you're an FBA seller, so this is associated with your FBA listings. Your current strategy says to be above the buy box if it's merchant fulfilled by $1, and then beat Amazon and other FBA sellers by 2 cents. And you run that for 2 months or 3 months at a time, right? And then you're like, okay, cool, well, I ran a report out of FlashPricer and for items that I'm not in the buy box for, and who's in the buy box typically? It's another FBA seller that I'm not getting the buy box from by beating them by 2 cents. Now, maybe I'm going to change my strategy, and so I record the date, and the date is 11/4. Today I changed my strategy, so if Amazon's in the buy box or another FBA seller, I'm going to beat them by 50 cents. Okay, and I recorded that this is the date that I made that change on. Cool. Now I go back to that strategy and run this AI report 30 days later and be like, okay, cool. Since I made this change, what's my buy box percentage ownership look like across all these listings? Is it better than the period before? Is my profit up? Are my sales up? Are my velocity up? Right. So you really get it's not just like in other softwares where you change a strategy setting and you think it's going to do better and then you don't actually get the results. Like you don't know, right? We're able to aggregate all the data and get all the sales history from all those products in aggregate at the strategy level and say, okay, cool, this change was a good change actually, and so keep it this way, or no, that was a bad idea, change it back. So that's like visibility that nobody else is sort of doing in the space for their clients. So we gotten deep into the weeds with like the AI reports. Other things that are on the horizon right now that I'm super excited about are it's Amazon Business repricing. So when I was a seller myself, I want to account for about 30% of my total Amazon sales were coming from B2B selling. And that was the only B2B selling that has been available to sellers up until now is taking your B2C price and effectively repricing based off your B2C price. So you take your B2C price and you could do like percentage off discounts, and you could do tiers. So like 1% off for 2 pieces or above, 2% for 3 pieces and above, or 4% for 4, right? So there was like pricing tiered discounts based off your B2C price, which makes no sense because like then you go look at what the prices of B2B sellers are on Amazon, and you're repricing based off of your B2C price, but that they're not the same sellers on the B2B. So what's the connection really, right? And even just doing that tier discounted pricing was helping me get a 30% boost in sales just by selling on B2B, right? And having like a simple automated pricing strategy that would basically assign these listings to a B2B strategy and take those tiered discounts off. So we just like keep our selling price the same, B2C and B2B, and take the tiered discounts off. Now, if we're able to do 30%, 20 to 30% without actual repricing, then I can't even imagine what is going to happen when we release this actual B2B pricing. So to the best of my knowledge, we're the only repricer that's going to be launching this, and like we're about a week or 2 away from launching B2B pricing, but like actual B2B pricing. So it's not only tiered discounts that are allowed within our system, but it's a completely different repricing portal. So you can set different minimum and maximum thresholds for B2B, and you could also set repricing strategies specific to other B2B competitors. So that's a huge upgrade. If we can't achieve like 30 to 40% by somebody implementing that in month 1 or 2, like I'd be very, very surprised. So I'm super, super excited about that. And then there's one other piece of functionality that I'm also working on that's like really on the hush, but it's like, I think it's going to be a complete game changer, and hopefully by the time this airs, we'll have it out to some degree or another. So we're really AI focused and sort of pioneers in the repricing space from an AR perspective, and so something that we're probably in tune to that many other sellers and or people in general might not really know that goes on in the AI space is something called like MCP servers. And basically MCP servers, as they pertain to AI or ChatGPT, etc., are effectively modules that allow you to call on different products or different softwares or tools for additional information and or to take actions. So at its simplest form, you'll be able to install our MCP connection into your ChatGPT and ask FlashPricer without ever going to our system directly from within ChatGPT. Once you've made the initial connection to your marketplaces from Amazon or Walmart, and you do the MCP connection, now a lot of sellers and a lot of people in general are living within ChatGPT and ask it for answers to things, right? So this allows sellers to have all of the data, or virtually all of the data that's available within Seller Center, right? But not in actual like complicated reports and stuff like that, but rather in natural language that Flash Pricer's ingesting on your behalf for our sellers to access it on the ChatGPT side. So you can just say, what are my top 5 best-selling SKUs over the course of the last 7 days, and how many units did I sell of that, and what's the average profit margin across them? And you could do all that within ChatGPT, or you'd be like, oh, which 10 products are at risk of stocking out over the course of the next 15 to 30 days? And you'll get that information spit back out to you in a conversation format within seconds, directly through ChatGPT. And so it really spans like to the best of your brain's capacity to like ask it any questions about your business, in order to make decisions outside of not only Flash Pricer, but outside of the Seller Centrals and the Seller Center Walmart tools, right? So like you really have access to all of your selling data at your fingertips, and you can make really informed decisions that way. And we're giving it to you directly where you're working, for the most part. So yeah, those are the 3 most interesting and exciting things that I have going on right now. They're all really, really exciting. So yeah, a lot of really cool stuff.
Sounds like a game changer. I can't wait to see that in action.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So finally, let's look ahead at how can Spectrum BPO and Flash Pricer collaborate to deliver even more value to brands we both serve.
Yeah, I think we can collaborate in a big way. We work hand in hand with many agencies out there and ads tech platforms to take a pricing focused approach and to ingest. So like if Spectrum can ingest our price changes, basically we let you know on which product we've made price changes today and what price we've changed to. If that affects the bids that you're bidding on for a specific product or keywords or anything else, then you guys can then make adjustments to that. And so the best way that Flash Pricer and agencies are working together today, and the best sort of partnerships that we're seeing, is when Flash Pricer does their job, and our job is either increase sales velocity or increase profitability, depending on what the client is trying to achieve, right? But let's just say, in general, if they don't augment our AI models at all, we're targeting additional profit while not degrading sales to the degree of they make less dollars in, right? So if we're actually successful in increasing profit dollars, which we are in general, very wildly successful at doing that, then when we work very closely with the ad agency, and I think you guys are managing ads on behalf of many of your clients, right? We can say, cool, you're accustomed to spending X on this product, right? And like, let's just look at it a very contained environment, one product at a time. You're accustomed to spending X on this product. This product was yielding you an ACOS of whatever it was, right? So if Spectrum can keep that on plane, basically same or better, right? ACOS decreasing, spending same or less, and Flash Pricer can increase profit margin, then the spread in between the ACOS and the profit margin is what they actually get to keep, right? And so with our most successful brands and our most successful agency partners, we're working very closely, and we're sending to these partners the price changes that we're making daily. And their job from there is keep ACOS the same, keep spend the same, or decrease both of those things. Our job is increase profit margin, right? And if we can do that together, which we've been able to do many times, those are our most successul clients, right? Because it's not just I'm trying to increase profitability and the ad agency is like, like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, I got to spend more. ACOS is whatever, like, not paying attention to it. So if they don't, and we don't work together, then hopefully nothing terrible happens, but the best thing that could possibly happen
Yeah.
is not happening.
I think collaboration between strategy and tech really is the future of e-commerce right now. Jordan, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thanks for breaking down the repricing in such a clear and actionable way. I'm sure our listeners are walking away with new strategies to test today, and appreciate your time and best of luck with Flash Pricer's journey ahead, Jordan.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on board. This was super fun, and looking forward to working with you guys more closely.
Thank you.